Beverly Barrick. It's so exciting to see you. It's been months since we've gotten to connect face to face, and I'm so excited just to let the world hear your experience because for me, getting a front row seat to the metamorphosis journey, I will keep saying till the cows come home. It was nothing short of inspiring and transformational and just so meaningful to get to know the real you under the coping mechanisms and the saboteurs and the trauma that your body had kept the score of all those years until, the time that we met. So let's backtrack. What was it that initially drew you into working with me?
I was going through problems in my marriage. My husband, at that point, was like 38 years, 39, something like that, had revealed that he had a problem with pornography. And I had family history of my dad leaving my mom the day after my high school graduation that I thought I had worked through, but that was triggered into what my husband did. And I was searching for some way to cope. And things that I started looking at Instagram, you came up in my feed, and something about what you were saying and what you were doing and speaking to spoke to me. And so I reached out.
Yeah, and that feels like a second ago. It's just that resonant connection of I don't know what
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
about, who she
yeah.
is, gonna reach out.
I had seen other people offering the same kind of stuff, but it didn't hit me the same way as you did.
Yeah, there's something to that, and I even think of our modern day lingo and language, and people say, like, I vibe with this person or I don't vibe with that person. And there really is something about the energetic frequency that we send out to each other. And there's certain people that you're like, I don't know, there's just something about them that clicks. And I felt the same about you. It's mutual. I was like, I love her right off the bat. Um,
Thank you.
Honest question. Can you recall a moment where you felt really unsure about the process? Maybe in the beginning, like, is this going to work for me? Not sure. And was there a tipping point where you trusted the work?
Um, there was never like a unsure, but there was that human nature of, okay, I found something that is going to help me. I can feel that. I can tell that it's speaking to me. And then, of course, we live in the world where, I order my fries and 5 seconds later I get my fries.
Hmm.
So, so it wasn't as fast as I was hoping, but I never doubted the process. I never doubted the process because every time, even though it wasn't as fast, I felt like I've got one more thing to help me cope. I have one more thing that when I employ it is helping me get through this very difficult time.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I think like you said, the generation we live in, we are used to big, fast, hard, and even in the mental health space, healing world, everything is marketed as like, boom, this is gonna be Tony
Yeah.
Robbins, insane, change your life. And when we learn what somatic work really is actually very subtle. It's very slow. It's the million imperceivable sometimes tiny
Hmm.
decisions that lead to this tipping point of, whoa, as Kelly, my mentor, always says, you're going
Hmm.
to wonder how to get there until you wonder how to get here. And so I know you trusted the process, and every person who's come in has had to have the patience of and the reframe of, oh, slow actually wins. It's like tortoise in
Hmm.
the hare energy here. So, what has changed in your relationship with yourself or your husband as a result of us working together?
Um, Working with you, I had lost touch with my inner child because of all the stuff I was dealing with. And I had come to a place of feeling like, gosh, I'm never going to be me again.
Mhm.
And working with you, and I'm just going to toss in the retreat, your retreat that I went on, helped me to see that it's not lost. That inner child that is such an essential part of me, that inner part of me that gets joy out of life and enjoys and has fun, wasn't gone. who was just buried under all of the hurt and everything else that I was dealing with. And now you have to refresh what the other part of the question was.
Yeah, well, I want to add on to that. You actually just answered it. Like, what changed in your relationship with yourself? And you can
Hmm.
get to your husband.
Oh, there you go.
Before
Yeah.
that, I just want to say one of my favorite core memories of my whole life was on that retreat. And for those listening, Beverly earlier in session had said, like, I just imagined starting a game of tag and just starting to play. It was like all these grown women, high achievers, last thing you'd ever expect us to be doing. And I saved that in my mind bank for later that night. We had an evening dinner and we were all just chilling after. And I whispered to my co-host, I'm like, I'm about to go tag Beverly and start a game of tag. And it just like lit up the inner child in everyone. That was my favorite
Yeah.
part of the retreat was, and then we got competitive. We were like really chasing each other.
Yeah. That I still, you're talking about it. I still get goosebumps. And every time I think about that, it just brings a smile. So when I start to feel like I'm losing me, that's actually one of the core memories I go back to. Like, no, you're there. You're there.
So beautiful.
Relationship with my husband, we are still working on complete repair, but we are way farther along than we were when I started with you. We can have conversations where I don't melt down and start yelling at the top of my lungs and using language that I never used before in my life. And he's shutting down because I'm yelling, so he's not hearing what I say. Tough subjects that we used to not be able to talk about without blowing up, we can now talk about calmly. And I've learned the language to use for him to understand that, okay, your side may be different, but from where I'm sitting, the story I'm telling myself, what I'm feeling in this moment is this. And he has learned to honor, that's not what I intended, or that's not how I see it, but I see that is how you feel about it. And I'll meet you there.
That's huge. I think it's the number one thing I hear women coming through the doors of Root to Rise being like, help me learn how to communicate with my husband better. And it's
Mm-hmm.
another slow your roll moment where I'm like, I promise we will get to that. But before anything, we've got to one, get you out of this spiraling shame storm that you're in, two, establish safety in the body,
Mm-hmm.
learn to work through triggers. There's all this foundational stuff. And then what happens is this natural overflow of the work is we're not learning necessarily these new, wild, and improved words to speak to our partner because what we learn is what's the most effective communication is focusing on your body. 93% of communication is nonverbal. So our body language, our energy, that
Mm-hmm.
vibe or frequency we're putting off. And so when you did that deep cellular spiritual work, it naturally sent a different vibe to him. So to hear that there's safety in communication, that it's authentic communication, it's not being swept under the rug or screamed from the rooftops that scares the other person away is beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that. Beverly, what kind of clients or situations do you think, now that you've gone through the program, that Root to Rise or my coaching is best suited for? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Um, so for sure, what drew me to you was you also were sharing on your Instagram that you were having difficulties in your marriage and somatics helped you. So certainly that is someone who would benefit from working with you. But I'm going to say anybody that has a past hurt or trauma who feels like they just can't get over it or that they're not going to get past it and that talking about it isn't doing anything. Because I have always felt that talking, before I've even heard of semantics, I've always felt that just talking about it isn't the solution. So anybody who's tried talking and they feel like they're still not going anywhere, I think would benefit from what you offer.
Yeah, that's the huge thing that's kept so many of us stuck is talking about our trauma actually keeps us stuck in our trauma, but we've been
Mm-hmm.
sold on the opposite message and it's sadly kept many of us stuck for decades. And so when we learn how the nervous system works, this was what gave both of us hope, Beverly, where, oh my gosh, The big nerve in the nervous system, the vagus nerve, where we learn 80% of internal communication goes from the body up that nerve to the brain. Only 20%
Hmm.
goes from the brain to the body. So all the talk therapy we did, all the podcasts we scourged, all the books we read, like is great to a point, but it's only working with that 20%. So many
Right.
of us felt stuck, spinning our wheels at best, and re-traumatized at worst. But when we learn to settle the nervous system, move trauma out of the body that's been stuck and holding on to for years, this is when we're leveraging and biohacking the way God designed us, and we're working with that 80%. So although we're moving slower or more subtly, it's actually more powerful. It's like trying to chop down a tree, right, with like a spoon versus a sharpened axe.
Right, exactly. Having the right tool. And I just want to add that I also had trauma from my son getting married, only child, and cutting off communication with me for four
Mm.
years. And we had moved past that and we have reconnected and I'm in their lives. But I'm sitting here talking to you, realizing that working with you for the problem that I came for, it has spilled over into dealing with the healing of that hurt with my son as well.
Love that. And that's the unexpected gift and miracle. And I experienced the same thing. It was like the biggest fire in my life was the marriage. Did the work for that. And then I started being like, oh gosh, this is really applicable for my child's meltdowns and the
Mm-hmm.
ruptures that I've had with my own kids and learning the power of repair, not just with words, but with that attunement, that
Right.
body connection, heart resonance. And so I love to hear that. Beverly, I could talk to you for hours, but I know this is a short interview. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that is on your heart that you'd want to share with somebody who's curious if somatic work with me would be a good fit?
um, I would say, yeah, believe it. Believe it, believe it, believe it. Trust it, trust it, trust it. And the secret is you have to apply it. You have to, there are a whole bunch of different things that you supply us with, that you supplied me with for coping with anger, for coping with grief, for coping with feeling unsafe. And you have to try them. And you will discover that some work for you and some don't. And when you find the tools that work for you and you regularly use them, you will be amazed. I have always had sleep issues.
Hmm.
And I have applied several of the things I've gotten as a nightly routine for me getting ready to go to sleep, to the point that I do the butterfly tapping first. And
Hmm.
my husband will turn to me and go, "Are you going to do your tapping now?" So I have this set routine of what I do that starts with the butterfly tapping. And my husband just like a couple of weeks ago said to me, "You fall asleep so much faster now." And
Oh,
it really was because when you go to bed, the room is dark. That's when your mind, that 20% in your mind starts to try to go crazy. And if you can calm the 80% from your body, telling your mind it's okay. You can go to sleep. You don't have to be stuck in this right now. You
yeah.
go to sleep. You go to sleep. And when I wake up in the middle of the night and have trouble going back to sleep, I go right back to it. And nine times out of 10, I go right back to sleep. When I met you, I was having horrible sleepless nights. Horrible sleepless nights. I just recently had one and it made me realize, oh my gosh, I haven't had a sleepless night
Hmm.
in a long time.
And it's crazy, now knowing what you know, that the body's always communicating and was trying to talk
Mm-hmm.
to you in different ways. And insomnia is one of those biggest ways where the body's like, something's off. We need a realignment. Listen to me. I'm trying to speak to you. I'm trying to communicate to you. And
Yeah.
so when you go on this exciting journey, not easy, but the exciting part is really getting to know your own body and learn its
Mm-hmm.
language and tune into the wisdom of these, divine signals that I believe God put into every one of us. It's just a matter of learning, oh, we're sitting on this gold mine of wisdom that's better than all the advice outsourced, input we can gather. So also what a cool picture because a before and after picture, because I remember when you started the work and you started tapping, there's that
Uh-huh.
scene you went on in the movie theater and your husband's like,
Yes.
what are you doing? You're like, leave me alone. It's regulating me. I'm trying this new
Yes.
thing.
I'll never
Uh,
forget that either. I got, yeah, he's like, you're so, what are you doing? What are you doing?
now he's like, if you don't do your butterfly taps, he's like, everything okay?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, Beverly, I love you. Thank you so much for this. And I know that the ripple effect is real, into your own children, but even just
Hmm.
being willing to share your story, there's going to be women's lives that you touch that we may not even see this side of heaven, but it's that butterfly effect. So thank you.
Yeah.
Love you.
Thank you. Love you. So good to talk to you.